thought that the meditation that we would do would be the traditional Buddhist meditation on the 9 points of death, which we do in order to fully embrace life. It's one of these life-affirming sort of practices that sounds like it would be dark, but it actually kind of loosens you up and helps you reconnect with your priorities. So, it'll be the traditional points that we normally talk about. And those traditional points are very obvious and self-evident, but are usually things that we push away. And I think that I hear a lot of people right now talking about how they're kind of waiting, you know, they're kind of in this like limbo waiting time of waiting for the, you know, restrictions to lift, waiting for the virus to be sorted out, waiting for life to go back to normal, you know, waiting for this, waiting for that. And I think that when we have a mindset that is waiting, we're not fully embracing life as it is. And when we're not fully embracing life as it is, we're less happy. We have less continuity and momentum with our practice because we're just kind of hanging out for things to get organized and to fall into place, forgetting that things have never really been completely organized or have completely fallen into place, really ever. And so making peace with the big transition, the big thing that we're all kind of waiting for, but pretending not to wait for, which is death, making some peace with that, then we can make peace with the mini deaths that happen throughout a day and throughout a lifetime. These points of transition where we lose something we thought we needed and then it turned into something else that actually was worthwhile as well. It was just different and unexpected. So we're going to do this meditation, and when you do this meditation, just really bring your own relationship to death and transition to each point. Try not to leave it abstract. Try not to connect it to friends you know who think the wrong way, or friends you know who think about it in a less effective way. Try to really bring it to, what is my relationship with these points today? And is there a way to free myself back up into my better priorities, my deeper priorities? And so it's a good idea every day to think, today I might die, and then you go to sleep and think, oh, how wonderful, I didn't die. Well, tomorrow I might die, you know, and then in that way you really lead a really meaningful life. And that's why Buddhists are seen as a little bit morbid, because we are always thinking and talking in these ways. But actually it makes life a lot richer. And if you really did have awareness of your own death in the forefront of your mind, there would be so many little annoyances and stresses that it just would not bother you. Do you know what I mean? You know, when you have a big priority in your mind or a big life event coming up, it could be that you become obsessive with small details and obsessive with different kind of stressors, but it's also just as likely for you to not care about them, just organically, you know, because you're remembering something significant. Who cares if there's traffic? You're remembering something significant. Who cares if someone is late to this or that? You know, the little stuff just doesn't get to you. So that's one of the benefits of meditating in this way. Right, so we'll just have a go and then we'll have a little chat. So as always, we'll just start with a really brief body relaxation and some mindfulness just to get ourselves settled from our surface distractions. So if you want to sit in a way that feels stable and secure, a way that your back can be straight upright without any tension. And as you become aware of your body, also become aware of any places that you might be holding tension. Maybe specific joints or muscles are strained or tightened in a way that you can release. You can imagine that your attention is like the warm sun shining on your body. Wherever it shines, the body relaxes. and settles into its natural state. So bring that warm, calming light of your awareness all throughout your body. Imagine your back becoming very strong and stable, reliable and steady. The front of you becoming very soft and receptive, without anything held in or clenched. And then as the body settles, shift your attention to the mind. And in your mind, make a very positive and altruistic motivation. Thinking, I'm going to meditate on death in order to have a meaningful life. In order to reconnect with the meaning and purpose already in my life. And in that way, being of most benefit to both myself and others. And you can frame that motivation in your own words. And let it settle in and connect. And shift your focus to the breath. Being with or in the breath is like being with or in the present. In that present, there is more possibilities. So feel as if your mind is relaxing into focus, not forced into focus, but gradually settling into it. using the breath as the focal object. Simple and direct. And if it feels like your focus is drifting away or sinking down, just very gently catch it and bring it back to the center, riding on the breath without elaboration. And now shift from single-pointed focus to analytical focus. Try to allow your mind to bring the flexibility and movement of an analytical mind, while still keeping that calm and clarity you touched moments before. And you introduce the thought into your mind that death is certain. Something you already know, something you've already looked at, but bring it back to the surface. And really think to yourself, not only is death certain, my death is certain. It will definitely come and cannot be avoided. And just see how that lands. Directing kindness towards yourself as you think it. But think it. My death is certain. And death will not wait for me to finish my tasks, to heal grudges, to come to conclusions. It will not wait for me to become organized or resolved. Whether I'm organized and resolved or not is up to me. Whether I need that or not is up to me. I can't prevent death by taking care of my body or keeping it safe. Those things might support its longevity, but I can't buy off death by eating the right foods, exercising in the right way. I can't negotiate with death. And our lifespan can't be extended. It's diminishing increasingly. Moment by moment, we're getting closer to death. And yet we make excuses not to invest time in what we know to be important. When we're young, we put things off. When we're middle-aged, we're busy and distracted. When we're old, we're tired. There's always an excuse not to examine deeply the meaning and purpose of our life. And then just being very honest about the fact that even when we are alive, there is little time to practice the spiritual path, because half of our life is spent sleeping, and the other half is spent with so many activities and recovering from those activities, planning for new activities, cleaning up after, organizing, rushing, then resting, shopping, traveling, eating. And any of those activities could be the spiritual path if the correct mind was brought to them. But usually they're done with distraction, just trying to get something done. And so we come to our first conclusion, which is I must practice something related to the spiritual path. I must connect with something related to meaning and purpose. Because meaning and purpose won't just automatically show themselves to me. I could live a whole life as if I was a sophisticated animal, just focused on basic needs. without any bigger picture, without any deeper context. And so see if you can land on that first conclusion. I must practice and connect with some sort of spiritual path, with some ideal or meaning. And if I'm already connected to something like that, I need to bring it forefront to the surface of my mind and become motivated by it, even on the most ordinary of days, because any one of them could be my last. And then shift from thinking about the certainty of death to the uncertainty of the time of death. And just remind yourself of the obvious, that young people die before old people every day, that there are healthy people that die before sick people every day. We know this, and yet we act as if we have a guaranteed long life, that health guarantees longevity, and that is not necessarily so. And so just very gently examine the assumptions you have about the span of your own life, the kind of guarantees you give yourself about how much time you have left. And generally in life, we think there are only a few things that most might cause an untimely death. When in actuality, the causes of death are numerous, and the causes of life are few. We're at the mercy of the elements. This body is so fragile that the things that are supposed to support it, like food, could actually become the very cause of our death. Blocking a windpipe, an unknown allergy, etc. So without going into some sort of neuroses or panic, allow yourself to feel your own fragility. That this body actually is a fragile thing, making it all the more valuable to touch life's meaning. And so because the time of death is so uncertain, see if you can land on the conclusion that I must practice now. It's not enough to think I should practice a spiritual path. I need to have a sense of unanxious urgency. Now is the time. I'll never be any younger. I may never be any healthier. Now is the time. I could wait until a holiday, wait until retirement, wait until financial security, and during that period of waiting, I could die, having never touched the profound. So I may as well start or revive my path, even if it's imperfect, even if it's unsettled or unresolved. Starting and continuing are more important. Just see if that conclusion resonates with your mind. Now is the time. And then shift to thinking that at the actual time of death, when my actual death is happening, the only thing that will help is my spiritual path. Or you could frame it as your own internal integration, your own cohesiveness and wisdom. Friends and family might surround us with love, but they cannot take pain and anxiety from us. Doctors and nurses may support us with all sorts of resources, but those are the things to soothe symptoms of having not practiced. They can't suddenly inject us with having had a meaningful life. They can't suddenly inject us with the inner skills and tools to bring about our own peace and connection. And so think, at the time of death, the only thing that helps is my own internal work and development. Does that seem true or not? Think, what if it was today, in the clothes that I'm wearing now, in the bed that I've been sleeping in recently? Today was the day of my death. What inner resources could I tap into to bring about my own peace of mind, to make my death meaningful for both myself and anyone who witnesses it? What would I do? And just really touch the truth of the fact that at the time of death, you do die alone. Friends and family, your wealth and resources, even your own body can't force a peace of mind that you don't already know how to connect with. Morphine could bring you pain relief, but will it bring you a deep and connected inner peace and clarity? Anti-anxiety medication might settle you, but will it be under your own control? Will you be able to communicate love and wisdom to those around you if your brain is fogged by medication? And so you come to the last conclusion, which is, I must practice purely without self-deception. Whatever my spiritual path is, whether it's a religion, a spirituality, or an ideal like compassion, if it's completely secular, Doesn't matter. If it's integrated, it can help us. If it's merely intellectual, it won't. And so think, I will practice purely, free from self-deception. And having acknowledged that death is certain, the time of death is uncertain. And at the time of death, the only thing that will benefit us is our own inner work. Then come back to this day and this life and name a few of your most significant priorities. Not activities or tasks that need to be done, but the inner work that you want to prioritize. Perhaps to be more forgiving or less critical. To confront different negative habits. What exactly would you like to bring forward to help increase the meaning and purpose of this life, this precious life? And through the effort we put into these contemplations, may we have a meaningful life and a meaningful death. And whatever comes afterwards, whether our legacy or more life, may we bring these ideals to it. May all of this lead to benefit to both ourselves and others. Okay. So you can do that meditation in a short way or in a long way, but the idea is that you're kind of shaking the dust off of what you know. You know, you're kind of like brushing off and saying, oh, right, yes, death is a thing. It's a thing that will happen. There is absolutely no way to avoid it. What does that mean? What does that mean for me and what I want to do with the rest of the life I have, whether it's a day or a decade? What do I want to do? You know, and really, you know, it boils down to the same things in every religion, spirituality, secular technique, you know, love, compassion, peace, etc. But how do we remind ourselves to embody? You know, not just to have like tasks and activities that are a good person's tasks and activities, but how do we actually connect with the inner work of being peace, you know, being compassion? Because the more we are being, then whatever task we do, whether it's ordinary or significant, it doesn't really matter because it's all in the flow of the spiritual path, you know. And then you can have this sort of flexibility in your life that changes tasks and activities and context whenever it makes sense to, but the thread and the continuity of your practice continues. You know, so then it doesn't matter if you're working or you're retired. It doesn't matter if you're on holiday or not. Always there's the thread of being peace, being compassion. And then you can even think that living in that way means whenever I die, I'm going to be the sort of person that inspires the people around me to live more meaningful lives. You know, if you've ever been next to someone who's passing away with peace, as opposed to someone who's passing away with a lot of fear, it has a big impact on our life. You know, the story of someone's death is something we carry with us the rest of our life. And if we want to die in such a way that the story others carry of us is meaningful in a healthy way, you know, we're going to need to get organized now and ask ourselves, in crisis, are we more likely to steady and focus and connect to our path, or are we more likely to throw it away, become anxious, and kind of revert to less wholesome techniques for stress relief? It's probably a mixture, but that knowing is really important because then we can start to work on what we'd like to work on. So, so bringing death to the forefront of the mind makes life a lot richer, I think. It could make it too confronting, it could be too much, but I think generally it makes it more meaningful. So when we were doing this meditation, did you have any areas of resistance or areas of insight that you feel comfortable sharing? Sometimes with this meditation, people kind of shut down and become sleepy, even if they weren't sleepy before the meditation. Sometimes resistance looks like hyper planning and list making, you know, so there can be lots of ways that resistance shows itself. There can also be a great relief feeling of, oh, right, death is coming. Does it really matter that the maintenance guy who was going to fix the tree outside isn't coming today, but he was supposed to? Do I really care? Is it that big a deal? Well, I let it ruin my day. Meh, you know, and you just, a lot of the little stuff just slides off, you know, so it can do that as well.
Yeah, it was I loved the retreat. I loved the meditation. It's something I practice quite often. Most of my life as a nurse has been with palliative care and caring for those who are dying. And I've seen deaths so peaceful. I've seen deaths that have been quite horrific, you know, and it's been quite sober really, because it reminded me, you know, that I needed to lead a life really that was, you know, when the end came, that I would be at peace too. So I don't really know how I'll be. I often think that I don't want to have a whole pile of medication shoved into me, you know, like morphine, etc. However, I don't know if I'm brave enough, if I've got a lot of pain, not to have medication. You know, I don't know. I don't know about those things. You know, only time will tell, really. Yeah, so, it's sobering. It's a sobering thought, but it's a happy thought actually, you know,
Yeah.
because to prepare for something so momentous, really, you know, the end of or the beginning of something else. I don't know, you know, none of us know. None of us really know actually, you know. So doing this meditation, I think, allows me to get that little bit closer and have that little bit more depth of understanding of my own demise, my own death. Yeah. So, yeah, thank you. And I think that you're going to record this, aren't you? So that's good. So I can do it, you know. Yeah, I find that easier sometimes to listen to somebody rather than to, you know, just do it in my head, because I just lose the plot, you know, just I got to the age where I just lose the plot, which happens quite frequently. Yeah.
Understandable. And familiarity too, you know. It's it can roll off my tongue because I've done it a million times, you know. It's just familiarity. But I think, you know, what actually happens at the time of death, whether we need medication or not, isn't so much a big deal. It's more like our relationship to that idea. You know? And it's like, if we can think of our deathbed and think of it even being today, there can be thoughts of, who do I need to forgive? Who do I need to ask forgiveness of? What stuff do I need to really resolve a bit? Because at the time of death, it often is what comes up and agitates the mind. You know that, having seen people die, right? Their old stuff comes up and you think, okay, that whatever thing happened 20 years ago and I put it behind me, but did I really? Or is it going to eat me in the moment of, you know, profound transition? Because now's the time when we're healthy enough, you know, write that letter, resolve that issue. And it might be that the people we have issues with aren't in our life. They might even be dead themselves. And there's still ways that we can unlock the blockages in our heart and resolve those things, you know, through therapy, through psychoanalysis, through meditation, through journaling, through whatever kind of form. But it's not going to just resolve itself by waiting. I think that's the illusion that we want to break through with this, is that there seems to be some illusion that a lot of people have that life's meaning and purpose will just magically reveal itself.
Yeah.
And that being organized and resolved will just magically happen. And, you know, I know people, you know, people that die completely unresolved, not knowing what any of it was for. You know, so it's a project that we have to be proactive about. We can't be passive.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, other thoughts? It can be sobering, hopefully not too sobering, but I think it's a good time to do this meditation because we're all in kind of a waiting mood, you know, waiting for what's going to happen next. What should we do with our life if we have different regulations? What? And the waiting robs us of the present. You know, we could die while we're waiting. You know, I'll figure that out when the quarantine's over. I'll figure that out when I'm back to work. I'll figure that out when. And it's like, you know what? Who knows what life's going to be like? Live now, you know. You don't have to magically do all sorts of epic changes in your life right now. It's just about coming back to that inner motivation of, I don't want to rob myself of the present by living in this waiting mentality.
I think it's a good wake-up call. Think about this. But it can be good for people that I think all the time, all their lives, they are working with their insight. So all the time that it's instead of inside yourself, you think about your life. And when you think about your life, you think about your death. If you think how I want to live, I want to, my feeling that I feel, it's very now and here and now. So if you are attention to this, it will be easy to, if you are here, it's depends of your connection with other people, what I want to do. I think it's working for all life. And if you're working all your life about yourself, your purpose, your ideals, so I hope so. That's what I hope now, that when I come to my death, I will be a little bit quiet. a little bit feel, there is a Winnicott, I don't know if you name his name, he said, I want to live when I die.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I think that whether we believe in there's some sort of continuation after death or not, I think we believe that there is an impact to the life after we die. There's a legacy of some kind, whether it's in the relationships that we leave behind, or it's in the work that we've done, or literally a future life, or literally some sort of whatever afterlife. It almost doesn't even matter. We all, I think, believe in some sense of the energy continuing, even if it's just in the relationships and work that we've done. So what is the energy that we're cultivating? You know, are we someone who is perpetuating criticism and stress and dissatisfaction and mindless consumerism? And that's the beautiful gift we're leaving to society now and as we die. You know, that's something worth checking, like, oh, actually, I would not like to leave that legacy behind myself. That's also not habits I want to carry with me if I'm going somewhere else after this life. Because what will we take from life to life besides our mind and its habits? Is our mind and its habits exactly as we would like it to be? Or are there some habits that we'd like to shift ourselves out of and not take with us the next time? And not share with our friends and family in this life, you know? So remembering the death can kind of make you ask, you know, in my energetic will and testament, I will leave behind this habit of judgment and this habit of blah, blah, blah. And here you are, my friends. You know, it's a good way to think about it, because you think actually what I want to leave is whatever wisdom I've connected with, whatever love I've connected with, that's what I want to leave behind. And that's what I want to take with me if there's something after. And so how about I nourish those like I would nourish a garden with fertilizer, rather than kind of take them for granted as, of course, they're important to me, I don't have to think about them. It's like, no, think about them, then they'll be more prominent, you know? It's easy to take for granted our values because they seem so self-evident. Of course I care about peace. Of course I care about compassion. We don't consciously think of them on purpose because we're just like, of course, why would I think about it? That's just naturally how I am and what I care about. However, in our daily life, is that what we're communicating the most regularly through our actions and through our words? So what we actually are bringing forward might not be those things that we actually care about the most. We might be bringing forward our neuroses. You know, so those kind of confronting thoughts, but also liberating thoughts, because it's like you can shake off the nonsense and come back to your center. Does that make sense? Yeah. So anytime you feel the I'm waiting for, you can remember death is coming. What am I waiting for? Life is happening now. No, kind of cut that waiting feeling. And also the waiting feeling that we have of maybe I'll change my life and maybe I'll change the way I do certain things when ... And you think, well, what do you mean when? That could happen anytime. You know, people die in the shower, in the middle of the shower, inelegantly sprawled across the floor. You know, people die while they're eating. You know, it's not like death is an organized, tidy thing. You know, one of my relatives, his last words were, "Stop, I have to go to the bathroom." Those were his last words. Now, he probably would be amused that that was his last words. He was a funny guy. But, you know, I mean, it's not like it's just going to magically have profundity, you know? We have to consciously bring profundity to our life. Yeah. Yeah, like this. So the transition times, why do we name them transition times? Why do we name them places of waiting? That's something worth examining. You know, before I became a nun, I thought, oh, I will be a nun someday when I have lived my life and had my family and done all the things I'm supposed to do. Then I will allow myself to do my spiritual path, and then I will begin. And then I suddenly realized, that's a huge assumption that I'll even live that long. Why am I waiting? I should do it now, you know? And so remembering death sharpens priorities. You know, so if there's anything you've been waiting to do, why? Why waiting? Yeah. And yeah, I don't know, people in Israel are better about communicating love than a lot of cultures, but it's like, why do we wait to tell people all the things that we appreciate about them and love about them? You know, if on our deathbed, our thought is, oh, I would like to write a letter to all my loved ones and tell them how much I love them and how much I appreciate them and all the things I've learned and shared with them. I want to do that then, we'll do that now.
I find myself mainly, among other thoughts about my death, being concerned mostly about those who need me, that I might leave. I find myself not knowing how to approach it. This is one question. And another one, it probably not for today, I was concerned about talking with children about death. So if we would have some opportunity to talk about it, I would appreciate and be thankful for that.
Yeah, I mean, in Buddhism, it's very related to the culture that Buddhism enters into, how these things are discussed. But generally speaking, we talk to children the same way we talk to adults. We just use language that is suitable to them. And we're open and honest and say, there are some things that we know and there are some things we don't know. And the things we do know is that living a life oriented by compassion is a meaningful and happy life. What comes afterwards, we're not really sure. We think it could be this and it could be that. And here's some good ways to kind of approach that. But it's a question that all of us all have until the very end. We don't really know what's next. I think lying to children doesn't necessarily serve a function, even if it soothes them in the immediate. There are ways to soothe them with what is true, you know? To soothe them with, okay, you know, grandma and grandpa are gonna die because they're older, and you're gonna carry with you always the joy and the lessons that you've learned from them. You're gonna carry them with you in your heart because of whatever genetics and experiences and this and this and this, and that is one of the beautiful richnesses of life. And you might meet them again in some other form, but we really don't know. You know.
What about the child's death?
And the child's death too, yeah. But these are really personal choices, and you have to read the relationship, you know, to know this kid can hear it, this kid can't. But generally speaking, you know, the advice is honesty, but honesty in the level that they're able to hear it, as opposed to just giving them some cliche that no one really knows is true or not, and then later they're disillusioned, you know? But really that's up to everybody as an individual, what seems wise and skillful. You know, your previous question is a really important one of what do we do with, you know, the people that we're leaving behind who depend on us. And I think that we have to remember that we are not the only one in their life, you know, and that the things that we've shared with them and connected with them are in them. They're in them, they're carrying them with them. And so when we die, they're not going to suddenly be robbed of all the support we gave them. Now they're embodying the support we gave them. And it's going to be hard, but it's not like suddenly we're taking something from them. It's that we're leaving something. We're just not adding any more because now we're changing form, you know, but we're not taking anything from our loved ones when we die. We're leaving with them all that happened between us, which is beautiful and rich, you know. And the grief that we have when we are dying or are around people who are dying, you know, is something really worth exploring, because sometimes that is about, I need to show you that I love you by showing that I'm grief-stricken about you going or about me going, when it could just as easily be, thank you for our beautiful life together. I'm so happy that we met, you know. And then it's, you know, there's still a sadness and a grief, but it's not that like hair pulling, hysterical, crazy grief that doesn't have a function and doesn't help. You know, communicate the love that you feel, communicate it now. You don't have to communicate it by hysterical grief afterwards, because that they're not going to know anyway. And if they do know, it's not going to make them happy that you're pulling your hair out, you know. So I think we have to trust that people are listening to us and benefiting from us more than we realize. So when we leave, they do carry those lessons. Just think of all the people in your life that have already passed away and the way that you carry with you the things that you've learned from them. They might not have known that you were responding that way. They might not have known all the things you remember, but it's there, you know. I was thinking how much, in a way, I think of my grandfathers more now that they're dead. You know, I think of all the beautiful things that I learned from them as a child and all of the cute ways that they influenced our family. And, you know, they're actually living in my memories and in my, you know, kind of joyful nostalgia life a little bit more than they did, you know, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. You know, so we're carrying them with us in all these beautiful ways. They'll carry you. They'll carry you. Yeah. Don't worry. Yeah, so anyway, we'll see you next week and have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.